Hi, just a little unboxing and sort of first impressions today. This is a BOKER Plus knife. This is actually the Nano 42, so that means it's a UK legal penknife. The 42 designation is something that BOKER use. I think it's a reference to German everyday carry law. It's certainly some European law that it's in reference to, but basically, as I say, this is the Nano 42. So whilst it appears that it's got a frame lock, it's actually designed to function as a slip joint. So you'll see there that the frame lock, zoom in a bit there, or focus rather, the frame lock doesn't drop into place as it normally would at the rear of the blade, but instead the ball detent in the lock bar drops into a drilled hole. So this isn't a knife that I would have normally picked. I'm no great fan of BOKER knives, to be perfectly honest. No great fan of this grind, so this is a sort of a very steep hollow grind, and I'll probably touch on that a bit more, but that's not my preferred grind. But this knife has always sort of slightly caught my eye. It's always very hard to know how big it's going to be in the hand in pictures. It looks really nice, but the price point on it, which I think was around £45, I was simply never going to give it a try. There's too much out there for that price point, which I'd much prefer to have a go on. However, the UK supplier, Heinnie Haynes, dropped the price considerably, so I picked this up for around about £23, and it's certainly worth the risk, and it's paid off, because actually it's a very nice little knife. You know, the look and feel of it's very good. It works really nicely in the hand, nicer in some ways than the Pingo from Spyderco, which is probably the nearest in proportions. Slightly larger, but the way the handle is, it sort of crowds the fingers down there. This feels actually much nicer. The blade is very sharp. It's one of the few knives which I would say was shaving sharp, which is surprising because I've never really found BOKER knives to be impressively sharp. I've not really auditioned it in terms of cutting anything functional. That is my issue with this style of grind, because really, in my mind, a hollow grind, if you're cutting through, say, fruit, you end up wedging rather than cutting a nice thin slice, and there's really no functional benefit in my mind to having this sort of unground thickness up here, which is obviously very strong, but on a knife like this, do you need strength? No, you need cutting performance. So that's why I don't really like hollow grinds. Walking around the knife, if you will, very easy one-handed opening, and likewise a bit of a reshuffle closing as well. On the point of opening and closing, not a traditional slip joint mechanism. It works by the ball detent, so you've got a very shallow detent cut there, which just creates a full stop, and then you've got a half stop there, and if you look there, see if we can get that zoomed in, focused rather, but you can just see the detent ball balancing in the groove that it's got there, and when you go to full open, it snaps in all the way, which actually makes for quite a firm grip. And if you really pinch hard there, holding the lock bar in, you really can't get it shut. So if you are using this hard, you're putting a lot of pressure on the grip, you've got a fair chance of it not closing on your hand. Even if it does fail, it's not going to really close on your hand as long as you've got a good grip. So it's really quite functional for a slip joint. So lock-up's good, sharpness good, grind not my sort of thing. It's 440C steel. Another thing about sort of BOKER knives which turns me off a little, as opposed to Spyderco's, which always have an interesting steel, well, pretty much in all the cases have an interesting steel. 440C doesn't really excite me. I'm sure it's perfectly functional. So steel frame lock side, big pocket clip, quite functional. Open design, so you can give it a dust out. And what looks to be initially a G10 scale, with this what I'd call an Anzo style patterning, which is popularised in my view by Jen's Anzo. It's actually fibre reinforced nylon with a nested steel liner, but still fairly nice in the hand. So that's about it really. The pocket clip is somewhat redundant in my view because this is just the right size to go into a jeans pocket. So when the pocket clip's removed, this might give my Victorinox waiter a little bit of a run for its money. Slightly bigger, but once the pocket clip's removed, not actually hugely bigger, and what feels to be a more functional knife. Yeah, so really a very pleasant surprise. It is small in the hand, but it feels quite natural. I think if anything, a little lanyard hole there, if it came with one, I'm not going to put one on, just to have something to grab your little finger around, would be quite nice. Just compare it to other UK legal knives. This is the BOKER XS, huge in comparison. UK PK, again pretty big. As I say, the nearest competitor is the Pingo. I'm just trying to line up all the pivot points to give you a bit of scale. A full-size Swiss Army knife, and finally one of the mid-size Swiss Army knives. So it's one of the smaller knives there, but in the hand it really does feel pretty functional. So I think all in all that's a nice little surprise for the price point in the sort of early 20s. Very good. Not sure if I'd pay full price. One thing that I would say, which frustrates me, you'll see in other videos I mention about sharpening notches, just because it makes sharpening the knife much easier, because you always get a point just before the plunge where you can't hit with your sharpening stone, and eventually that really changes the line of the blade. But on this one, actually the plunge line comes over here, so you could easily achieve a sharpened edge all the way along, but they haven't. It's close, but it just isn't there, which is a little bit frustrating. That would be much nicer not to have had this dead spot. Yeah, where you look at the plunge going down like that, you could have easily have not had that. I think that's pretty much my only real criticism of this particular knife. As I say, a pleasant surprise, and something which I think will get some time in the pocket. Okay, thank you very much.